Hello, I'm Cameron.
Hello, I'm Chris.
I'm Jackie.
I'm Reagan.
I'm Michelle.
I'm Nana.
I'm Melissa.
Blake.
And I'm Brandon, and I'm going to be doing my speech over my restaurant, Blue Water Seafood. It's located in Spring, Texas, and I'm going to go over the organizational structure and as a business. I chose this business because I have first-hand experience with them. I've worked for them for over a year and a half, as all my shirts here. And I worked as a busser at the very bottom, as a food runner, as a server, and worked all the way up. And I know the ropes on every position. I know all the management tactics and whatnot. I've been around it for a while. They opened in 1996 and they were popular for a while. They have 3 locations, and the location that I worked at was falling, and their business was lacking. They had very poor service, poor food. I used to go there as a young kid. The food was never great. We were usually the only people in the restaurant, and the service was terrible. They were rude servers. It was just an altogether very poor restaurant. So they ended up shutting down. They shut down for, I believe, 5 or 6 years, and they recently opened up in 2014. And their motto was, "If our seafood was any fresher, it would still be swimming." This motto definitely didn't fit the old restaurant, but it did, however, fit the new one. Their new restaurant was under new management. I started working there in 2014 as the first 5 or 6 months as they started opening. The business was booming. The inside was completely redone. They remodeled the whole thing. New managers, new employees, just a fresh start. The food was great. Staff was awesome. Everything was awesome. The communication was a very big point in it. The managers did a very good job at the time of communicating with each one of their staff. All of their employees were on the same page. We had a Facebook page where all the schedules and everything was orderly. It worked out great. The old business suffered mostly because of their external communication. The business was not represented best to the public. It was not very good at advertising. They had very little advertising whatsoever, but they didn't use any form of, they weren't big enough to do any TV commercials or anything like that. There was a lot of options that could have been done to fix this, and it could have started out with advertising, which they did when they opened the restaurant up back again. They had a Blue Water page, they had a foodie page, everything was very broadcasted well. And to begin with this, the upward communication hardly exists. If anyone had complaints or constructive criticism towards the upper hierarchy, then it was immediately treated with disrespect and thrown out the window. An example of this, as any employee came to the manager with a problem, they were immediately almost insulted and said that they weren't doing a good job. Instead of constructive, they would just throw it out the window. They would say that we were wrong. They would even go as to threatening us to lose our jobs. So the downward communication was not expressed sufficiently either, but was told in a more of a belittling and rude way, saying curse words and yelling and trying to get the message across to us. The communication was very important, and it went downhill very fast. If any way, they'd even be across the restaurant and they'd be yelling at us and shouting orders, and whenever we were back in the kitchen, I had many instances when they would be cussing, and the communication was awful. So one of the duties as the manager, of course, is to be constructive with our employees, and this was never the case. And as a result of that, the restaurant slowly went downhill. We actually got new managers. Our old manager had to go to a different restaurant, so we got new managers, and this is when all that started happening. They hire and fire new employees every single week because one of the reasons was communication. I mean, they would come in and they would read an application and they would hire you on the spot. They don't know who you are, they don't know if you even served before, they don't care. They put you on and they literally say sink or swim from here. They throw employees out there, and everyone knows that is a terrible idea for business. You have to have your employees knowing what to do, and you have to have them with some kind of restaurant experience, or your business is reflected on your employees. That never occurred here because every employee was thrown out to the wind, and if you made it, you didn't. So all of their customers were affected by that, and ultimately their business. The organizational structure, the hierarchy, where owner delegates duties to the managers, who delegate them to the servers and the hostess. The internal communication is one of their biggest weaknesses because of those key factors that I went over. The external communication is complete opposite of how the real business on the inside is ran. And the old Blue Water, as a result, shut down because of lack of business, health requirements. Marlowe did not live up to their potential of their service and food. The new Blue Water did run better than the old one. They did remodel everything. It looked really, really nice, and everything was moving efficiently until we did the exchange of managers. We did hire new staff, of course. We hired them very quickly, and the managers the new managers were soon to be the downfall of the current Blue Water. I recently left this restaurant because of the management. There was no communication. The Facebook page was going downhill. They were degrading employees. They were not communicating on which shift. People were showing up to shifts they weren't supposed to and not showing up at all. So we would always be short people. The restaurant was always scrambling because there was zero communication. That was one of the main reasons where I got up and left, and I couldn't handle it anymore because communication was so poor. And the upper communication, which consisted of the managers from subordinates to superiors, were not allowed in this new work environment. Anything the lower workers, waiters, hostesses, busters had to say about anything during the restaurant was immediately shut down. The top dogs of the restaurant, the managers, and so had the final say. If it wasn't their way, they fired you. So if you had something very constructive to say about the business, they would immediately shut you down, threaten to fire you, take your job, give you a week off. It was not a very good way to run the restaurant. They did have strengths. Their overall strengths at Blue Water, they had their food. Well, their food really did improve since the Blue Water before they remodeled. The food was great. I personally liked the food. The advertising was great. They actually had a very big lit up LED sign. They did a lot of advertising through online, which is very crucial nowadays. And they made a new business for themselves on the inside and the outside. They turned everything around. The major weaknesses of the current Blue Water and their downfall are going to be the communication, of course, which is mainly the managers relaying stuff to the staff. If the staff isn't on the same page as the managers, any restaurant will crumble. And this is furthermore what I see the future of this restaurant being. Their very weak and poor communication displayed by the middle managers of the hierarchy would never let anyone, except for the top managers, talk about any problems whatsoever. They did have my way or the highway attitude towards their workers. That was their key downfall. And my suggestion, if there is any hope for this remaining restaurant, is the improvement for Blue Water is definitely got to start with communication. There has to be managers in there that have manager experience. Past restaurants, they've worked with food, they know what's going on, they know how to manage employees. And with that comes with the communication to their employees. Things have to be, or for my suggestions, they would have to be more in order. They would have to have a top dog, which you look at as your boss, not a friend. You have to have that boss figure. You have to be able to look up to somebody and have somebody telling you orders, constructive orders, not barking orders, not cussing, not degrading employees. You have to have that the top dog in there to really tell you how to do your job and what's the right way, and if you get something wrong, someone to pat you on the back. And overall, just the manager. There was too many managers here. And that's another reason why the communication was so all over the place. One manager, it's kind of like the telephone game. One manager would say one thing to another, and this manager would tell another manager. And some of these managers were 8, 19 years old. So managers, not managers. There's still just a weak staff, and they would relay messages to friends, and the boss would be your best friend, not your boss. And communication was just terrible in that aspect. So, as an overall, if my improvement suggestions for the improvement is if you have just a main manager there to take charge, actually lead the team, actually lead your team, respect everybody, because without respect and an actual leader, there is no restaurant, there is no team, and that's what you need to run a restaurant. So that is my presentation on Blue Water Seafood, and thank you.